I just love that Trump has gotten indicted for the classified documents, especially since during his presidency, he had passed laws making the stealing of the classified documents a lot harsher.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air with breaking developments in the unprecedented federal indictment of former President Donald Trump. The Justice Department has just unsealed the indictment against Trump, revealing the charges before the American people now. It was shortly after 7 p.m. Eastern last night. We went on the air after sources told ABC News a grand jury in Miami had indicted the former president on at least 7 charges. We'll pause here because we now believe that that number is going to be far higher as we now pour through this indictment.
Like 37 or so charges against him in the indictment. This is great because how is he going to fight against all of them?
Among the charges, and this is the range, it includes illegal retention of government documents regarding national security, conspiracy, obstruction of government efforts to retrieve those documents. ABC News also confirming the former president said in an audio recording in 2021 that he had taken classified information with him to Mar-a-Lago after leaving the White House, acknowledging, quote, "As president, I could have declassified, but now I can't." Again, this indictment.
Oh, so he didn't declassify those documents before he took them, and now that he wasn't president, he couldn't declassify them. And if they use that recording in court, he is just screwed.
Just unsealed. It is 49 pages long. I want to bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, you and I were talking extensively last night on the air and off about whether or not this would be a speaking indictment, what they call a speaking indictment in the legal world, whether it would lay out in granular detail what this evidence is, why they think they have what they need to move forward with what appears to be a statement that includes charges far more than the 7 we had initially had heard about from sources. Pierre, this is a speaking indictment?
David, it's a speaking indictment. It is an incredible narrative. They're laying out chapter and verse what took place. And one of the things that strikes me as I read through it right off the top, they're basically saying that Donald Trump was collecting classified documents in the same way that he was collecting newspaper articles. And that, quote, as of January 20th, 2021, as he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many which contain classified documents, to be transported to the Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach. And then it goes on to state that how this club was full of thousands of guests and visitors, and it was not the type of place that you should keep these kinds of documents. So it begins a long narrative. It's complete with pictures. There are examples of how the documents were removed as well, and also the story that we were talking about in terms of the audio recording in which Trump describes, having taken classified documents from the White House and clearly knowing that he should not talk about any of this information, and just a stunning example of facts laid out brick by brick by the Justice Department.
Pierre Thomas with us. Pierre is just reading the indictment. And again, we're going through the counts as we're on the air here, and I'm just going to read from what we have so far. 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice, 1 count of withholding a document or a record, 1 count of corruptly concealing a document or record, 1 count of concealing a document in a federal investigation, 1 count of scheme to conceal, 1 count of false statements and representations, 2 counts of false statements and representations. That's the list of counts. This is well more than 30 counts. And as we were on the...
Wow. I love that he's getting charged with this. He definitely needs to be put in jail for stealing the documents, speaking with people about classified information when he wasn't allowed to, and everything else. He's definitely not going to be able to run campaign for president, having to deal with all these court cases.
Here last night, sources telling us that the Trump team was aware of at least 7 counts, at least a range of 7 areas of charges. Now that this indictment has been unsealed, we see this as far more extensive in its nature. I want to bring in John Santucci, who's looking at this indictment too. And you see, John, the narrative form of this indictment, the great detail, even the photographs they have included to help tell their story.
Yeah, David, as you well know, I have been to Mar-a-Lago many times over the years, and there was an image for our control room that we just showed when you were talking with Pierre. That is a ballroom right off of Mar-a-Lago. It's the image, David, we see of boxes on a stage for the control room to show our viewers. That is a room, David, that is surrounded by French doors. It is easily accessible. Anybody can walk in there. I have walked freely in and out of that ballroom. It's quite small. It's right along one of the main entrances to Mar-a-Lago. And you see in that image, David, the amount of boxes that are just stacked there and the notes that we're reading in this indictment against the former president, now that it's been unsealed, say that they were stored there for quite some time. These were documents that were just left out.
So anybody that knew that Trump had these documents could come in there, take pictures or take whatever documents they want, or just skim over them and get some information to go sell to somebody else.
And about far more significant than we had first learned. Because remember, when we had been going through our reporting with the teams for the last several months, as we've been hearing about this, we had heard about documents kept in the former president's office, in his residence, in a storage closet below the pool. But to just see, strikingly, the images of them just left out freely in a room that anyone could access. Because remember, Mar-a-Lago, as we both know, David, this is not a private residence. This is a club. People can come in. There are guests. You could be a guest of a guest and come have lunch out on the pool deck. It's really quite amazing to see that there is documents just left out freely in open places where, frankly, anyone could go.
All right, John, let us know as soon as you hear from anyone in Trump's orbit, their reaction, because it's my understanding that the moment this was unsealed is the moment they're now seeing the extent of these counts. Again, 38 total counts from special counsel Jack Smith. I want to bring in our senior investigative reporter, Aaron Katersky. He is live in Florida for us at this hour. And, of course, it is in Florida at federal court in Miami, where the former president has been told to show up in federal court Tuesday afternoon at 3. And again, Aaron, this number, 38 total counts, obviously historic to charge a former president with federal criminal charges. But the number itself is quite staggering.
The number is staggering, and these charges, some of them fall under the Espionage Act, David. They fall under obstruction statutes that, taken together, are in theory punishable by decades in prison. And for the first time,
Decades in prison. Imagine Trump getting like 10 or 20 years at least in prison for something like this. I would be so happy. You would know Trump would be falling apart on the inside.
we are getting an official list from the special counsel via this indictment of what it is that former President Trump is alleged to have retained. The documents, of course, are not specific. They're not suddenly going to reveal classified information, but we get descriptions. For example, one document dated October 18th, 2019, concerns military capabilities of a foreign country. And the list goes on like that, so the American people can have a full accounting of what it is that the former president is alleged to have taken from the White House to his estate in West Palm Beach, and what he is illegally, in the eyes of the special counsel, tried to obstruct the government from retrieving. And specifically, David, some of the charges put quotes in Trump's mouth, instructing an aide who was also charged in this case to specifically move the boxes, or at least have other aides say, this is what Trump wants to happen. So the special counsel seems to be convinced that there is enough intent here that Trump did this willfully, allegedly, David.
And that also is a significant point, because there were a lot of questions about whether this would target the former president only, or whether it would be a conspiracy. And as you point out, Jack Smith goes into detail about what he believes he has discovered as far as others being aware of what the former president's wishes were when it came to these documents.
In fact, an aide to the former president, Walter Nauta, is also charged in this indictment and charged being in a conspiracy with the former president to obstruct the effort by the federal government to retrieve the more than 300 documents with classified markings that were ultimately found at the former president's estate in West Palm Beach. The 38 total counts, most of them involve the willful retention of national defense information, but the others talk about not the crime, David, but the cover-up, the effort to thwart the government in its effort to retrieve.
I think it's funny that the aides are being rewarded for their loyalties of helping Trump hide documents. They're getting charged as well. Good, they deserve it.
You've been listening to Aaron Katursky report from outside federal court in Miami, where the former president will appear come Tuesday, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's our belief, our team reporting, that the former president and his legal team just now seeing this indictment after it's been unsealed for the first time in this level of detail, if you will. The 38 total counts revealed in this indictment from Jack Smith, the special counsel. And again, you heard Aaron talk about the range of some of these documents that just one example, a document that went into the military capabilities of a foreign country. I know that Pierre Thomas, our chief justice correspondent, has also been pouring through this indictment. And Pierre, you have immediately tried to find perhaps some of the most damning areas of what Jack Smith believes he and his team have uncovered.
David, it's remarkable. They say on 2 occasions in 2021, Trump showed the classified documents to other people. So they're alleging that he actually took these sensitive documents and showed them to other people. They also are being very specific about what the obstruction was. Quote, he suggested to his attorney that they falsely represent to the FBI and the grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. He also said, allegedly, that he directed his attorney to hide or destroy documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. So,
While he was suggesting to destroy these documents, that makes the pool incident more likely that it was purposely flooded to destroy the documents. Wow, he should get in major trouble for destroying classified documents.
the special counsel is putting Trump as directly telling people to lie, to hide and move documents. And as Aaron just pointed out, Walter Nauta, who was one of his top aides, he was directed to, quote, move boxes of documents and conceal them from Trump's attorney. So they're making the case, as we previously reported, that Trump was, in some cases, tricking his attorneys to make representations that were, in fact, not true.